Understanding property assessment and taxes. Every year, the town sends you a property assessment notice and a tax bill in the mail. You know you need to pay the tax bill, but do you really understand your taxes? How does the town decide how much your property is worth? How is your bill calculated? And where does all the money go? Hopefully, this simple explanation gives you the answers you need. When you pay your taxes, a good portion of that will go to the town. There will also be a portion that the town collects on behalf of the provincial government and West Wind communities to fund education and seniors' housing. The majority of your tax dollars go towards essential town services like police, fire, and maintaining roads and parks. And the remaining money is used for important programs and services that help make our town a vibrant, resilient, and connected community. Now you understand why we need to gather taxes from residents, but who decides how much? As part of the Municipal Government Act, or the MGA, like all cities and towns in Alberta, the town can only collect the taxes needed to run the town. That's why it's important that Town Council approves a budget that will fund all town services. Once that budget's set, other sources of revenue, like provincial and federal grants, are subtracted. Then the amount the province requires us to collect for education and seniors' housing is added, and what you're left with is a total property tax that needs to be collected in order to balance the budget. From year to year, your taxes might go up or down. Let's take a look at the factors that impact your tax bill. What will it cost in the next year to run the town's programs and services? What's the assessed value of your home? And what's the current value of all the homes in town? Think of taxes collected in the community as a pie. Property assessment is the annual process used to figure out your share of the community tax pie. Now we'll break down the tricky part of understanding how your piece of that big tax pie is calculated using your home's assessment. To figure out your portion of the taxes, we take the total property tax needed and divide that by the value of all the properties in town to get something called a tax rate. The assessed value of your property is multiplied by the tax rate, and that determines what you'll pay on your tax bill. Let's look at a quick example to see how this works. Pretend you live in a place called Tax Town, population 3. Your house is worth $400,000. Neighbor number 1 has a house worth $500,000, and neighbor number 2 has a house worth $600,000. Add all of these together, and the value of all the homes in Tax Town is $1.5 million. Let's imagine that this year, the town needs to collect $15,000 in property tax money to run the town and deliver services. To calculate the tax rate, divide the cost to provide services by the total value of all the properties in town, which was $1.5 million, and we get a tax rate of 0.01. Now here's how we apply that to your home and calculate how much you pay in taxes. If your property was assessed at $400,000, and we times that by the tax rate, your tax bill will be $4,000. Remember neighbor number 1, whose house was worth $500,000? Their taxes will be $5,000, and neighbor number 2 will pay $6,000. Here you can simply see how everyone pays their fair share of taxes based on the value of their property. Add these all together, and we get the $15,000 needed to run Tax Town. Finally, let's think about how your assessment can change from year to year, and what that can mean for your slice of the community tax pie. Imagine your assessment increases, but so does the entire pie, because the total value of all properties across town also increased. This means your slice of the pie remains the same as the previous year because your slice increased by the same rate as the rest of the community. In this case, your property tax increase will be primarily based on the municipal tax increase approved by council for that year. However, if your assessment increase is higher than the average, then your tax increase will likely be higher. And if your assessment change was below the average increase, you likely won't see as high of a tax increase. To recap, an increase in property value does not always mean an increase in taxes and is not the basis for tax increases. Taxes are based on the cost of providing services that residents need and want. Assessment allocates each property's share of the total tax pie. Assessment is a fair process that uses actual sale prices, general market activity, appraisals, and comparisons with neighbors. Now that you understand how your taxes are calculated and how those dollars are used to deliver services that make our town a better place to live. We hope paying your taxes feels a little less confusing. Thanks for taking the time to learn with us. You can always head over to our website to find more information.